In this video we're going to talk about speeds and program terminations. Line terminations where we either stop at a point or we bypass that point and move on to the next point. So the first thing we're going to do is set up a new program, create new program, and I'm going to go speeds termination, exit, and we're going to edit. So the first thing we're going to do is set up our user frames, new instruction, miscellaneous, mark. And we're going to set up our user frame. We'll just use the world mode, and I'm going to go a couple lines. So I'm actually going to insert maybe like 15 or 20 lines here so that I have a bunch of lines that I can work from and I can go back and forth as I need. So it's a good trick to kind of get used to creating some lines and then going back and adding your different instructions. So the next thing is we're going to save this as our home position. So remark. And then I'm going to go add move point. We're going to do a joint movement and to point 1, which we're going to call as home. And then we're going to go down to our first shape. So we're going to save these different points, and what we do is I'm going to go down to position, and then we're going to go up a little bit. So I'm going to go to a safe position, then straight down, and then we're going to go through this jog, straight up, and then back home again. So I'm going to go in here. This is going to be to my position, and then this is going to be to my position at this point right here. And if you notice on our screen here, I have all the saved points here, so you don't have to teach each individual point. You just place in these coordinates. All z coordinates are -310. So all you do is go to position and switch to x, y, and z. This is going to be -100 and then -375, and then z is going to be -310. And when you hit enter, it will go to that position. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually save a point that's up here, which is considered our safe position, so that we're not running into our outside portion, which we'll call the dead man zone. So either that's a fixture or a part that you don't want to run into. So I'm going to actually move about 100 millimeters, or we'll say about 50 millimeters up. So we go to 250. So now what I'm going to do is this is going to be my safe position. So it's going to come down from our home to our safe position, and then we're going to save this point. So right here, number 9, we're going to go add move point. We're going to go here as a joint mode, and it's going to be 100% speed. And it's going to stop at that point, and then we're going linear down to the bottom portion. So what I'm going to do is go position, and then I'm going to go -310. So we're at that point. And now I'm going to go add move point. We're going to go linear and fine. We have a linear point down to point 3. So it's at home position, and then it's going to go down to the safe point, and then straight down from there. And then we're going to run through each one of these points. So I'm going to save each one of these points in here, and then we'll come back and modify it as we go through. So this, my x coordinate is 125, and my y coordinate is -230, and I move to that position. So I go add move point. We're going to go a linear for now with fine, so we'll see what that looks like, and then we'll move on to the next point, which is 40, and then -400. There we go. At that point, we're going to add move point and linear and fine, and then we're going to move up in position. So we'll go -250. So we go to our safe position. So add move point, linear up to our safe position, and then we're going to go back up to our home position. So I'm going to just copy these 2 lines of code. So I go ECBM, copy, and we're going to go select, copy, and then we're going to go down to this line right here, paste, and we're going to paste with the same information. So shape 1, and then we go to our home position. So if we run this, you'll see exactly what's going to happen with this program. Comes down, goes down, comes through, and with the fine, it stops exactly at that point, comes up to safe position, and then back up again. So you can see the motion of that code, and with the fine termination, we have exact points. Now right now we have it as 100 millimeters per second, which is kind of slow for this machine. Some machines can go up to 250, some can go up to 500, some can actually go up to 2000 millimeters per second. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first change this. So what we're going to try to do is get this to go through here as quickly as possible without running into the sides. Now, we don't have to exactly stop at this point right here. So we're going to try to move through here and get to this point as quickly as possible. So here's our stop, here's our end. So with that termination here of fine, you'll notice it starts right here, goes right to that point and then over again, which is good, but it could be saving us, we could save a few milliseconds or even a second maybe possibly on this program by looping around and getting close to this point right here and then going to this position right here. So let's see how long this actually takes to go in here. So shape 1 here, I'm going to add a point here. So insert a line of instruction. First I got to turn on teach pendant. I always forget to do that. There we go. So we're going to turn on a timer, and Roboguide has a few built-in timers. So I'm going to go and do instruction, miscellaneous, and timer. And we're going to go to list, and you can see we have a couple different timers. We're going to use timer 1, and we're going to start timer 1. Then as soon as we get to this position, we're going to stop timer 1. So I'm going to actually insert another line here. And then we're going to go new instruction, miscellaneous, timer, and we're going to use timer 1, and we're going to stop timer 1. So let's see how much time this actually takes to go down to that position and go to each one of these, and we can see how much time we will actually save by swapping it from fine mode to a continuous mode. So let's run this. Alright, let's go in to see how much time that took to do. So we go to menu, and we go to next, and we go to status, program timer, and that timer number 1 took 16.98 seconds. So let's see if we can shave some time off of that. So the first thing we're going to do is going to speed up our actual robot. So I'm going to go back to the select and then back into our program. So we want to be able to manipulate the program from one place. So right now you can see we have a bunch of 100 millimeters per second. I'm going to change this so that we have a parameter that changes all of them at once. So I'm going to add a few lines up here. So I'm going to add 3 lines, and I'm going to add an instruction, miscellaneous, remark, and I'm going to call this my variables. So I'm going to set up a register. So do instruction, register, and I'm going to do register, say we'll do 1. And we're going to set that equal to, we'll say first we'll speed up to 1000 millimeters per second. So we'll do 1000. Exit. So let's actually go rename that register. So we go to data, and I'm going to go to make sure we're in the correct register. So I'm going to go to registers. There's my register, and I'm going to enter into this, and I'm going to change the actual wording of this. So right now it's 200 for some reason. So I'm going to call this speed. So let's go back to our program. And notice how it says speed now. So now I'm going to go back in here, and anything that says 100 millimeters per second, I'm going to change this to that register. So if I go here to that 100, I go register, and I'm going to pick register 1, and now it's speed. So I'm going to do that for all of these. So now when I change it in one place, it will change all of these. So now I can really fine tune the speed of this. So now all the speeds that say speed, I can change in this one place. So if I change this from 1000 to 250, now all the speeds for this robot is 250. So if I change this back to 1000, now it changes all of them to 1000. So 100% will always go 100% of the robot's speed. So the next thing we'll look at is actually the fine, but let's see how long or how fast this is. So if you remember, it was 16.98. So let's see if we can speed this up a little bit. So I'm going to go back to that program, and I'm going to run it. So you can see a lot faster now. So let's go back into that menu and see how fast that is. So here presented a new problem. It didn't actually take 18.98 seconds. It actually took about 2 seconds, but because we did not clear the timer, it just kept on adding to that timer. So let's go back up to here and let's go into that program. So speed, enter. So I got turn on teach pendant. So right here where we have our home position, we have our variables. Let's add one more variable which says clear the timer. So I'm going to go insert another line, and we're going to go new instruction, miscellaneous, timer, and we're going to go timer 1, and we're going to reset. So now it resets the timer every time we run this program. So let's go back up to the top and let's run this to see what the speed actually is. There we go. So now let's go up to menu and next status, program timer, 2.01 seconds. So we shaved off 14 seconds, 14 point some odd seconds off of our time just by speeding up the robot. Now, sometimes we can't speed up the robot because it either A, shifts the table too much, or it's just way too much motion with the end of arm tooling. So sometimes that is not a complete option. So let's see if we can shave off a little bit more time by not exactly going to each one of these points, or this point right here to be more specific. So let's go back into the program, and I'm going to copy this portion of the program. So first I'm going to set up timer 2, so I'm going to go insert another line of code, because I like always to have at least one line of space between each one of my areas. And we set up timer 2, so I'm going to reset timer 2. Timers, and we'll call it timer 2, and we're going to go reset. Alright, so now that we have timer 2 reset, I'm going to copy shape 1 and I'm going to copy it down below. So I'm going to go CDM, copy, we're going to go select, and I'm going to start up here and then down again. And then I'm going to go down, and then I'm going to paste it down below here. Paste, and we're going to keep all the same positions. So I'm going to rename or remark this in here, and I'm going to go shape 1 non-fine. So it goes to our timer. Let's change our timer to 2. So it's timing 2. And instead of fine here, let's go continuous. So click on here and let's go continuous of 100% for now. So continuous 100%, continuous 100%, continuous 1%. Okay, so it's going to come down to our point and it's going to continue into this position. Okay, so it's come down, continuously runs through here. So it doesn't even exactly go to that actual point. So I'm going to go now copy this area up here, which is our home position, so we can paste it down below for our home position. So we'll go up to home position and then it'll do the exact same thing. So let's run up to the top. So if I hold shift and arrow up, it'll go to the top, and I'm going to enter on that, and let's check out the actual run now. So the first one is normal, and notice how it did not go down to that point because it's running through, and then as it continues 100%, it makes a arc over, and then it arcs even more over here. So let's actually see that point. If I go to the top here, notice how it's actually going to run into this position. So if I hold over here and I run it one more time, you'll see it actually come over. So the first one goes to that position, and second one, there we go. We ran into this area right here. So if we run into this area, that means we just crashed our tool. So we need to change continuous amount to be a little bit different. So this is going to 0.4. So 0.4 is right here. Here's 0.4, or line number 4. And this is continuing on to the next position. So right here is what we need to change. So if we go down to, say, 75, and we'll get rid of those profiles, and then let's run it again. So let's go shift up all the way to the top, and we will run this program and see what happens. Okay, so we're getting even closer now to the tip. So let's change this maybe to 60% and see what happens. And this is, remember, full speed. And as you have your number down here, it actually doesn't make as much of a loop here. So you have to make sure you're checking this high speed, which is what the program allows us to do very, very quickly and very easily without making a mistake in real life. There we go. So we actually got really close here, and that actually probably going to hit because of the tool there. So I'm going to actually go a little bit more for the speed, and then we will be good with that. So I'm going to go maybe 50%. There we go. And let's run it and see what happens. There we go. So now we bypass that. So we're running around that corner fairly quickly. So let's look at the actual times now. So if I go to Menu, Next, and then Status, Program Timers. All right, so just by changing the end of termination of the line of code from fine to continuous, we saved almost 1 second of cycle time. Now, it doesn't seem like a lot, but when you're constantly doing this over days and days and days, over years, that time adds up very quickly to dollars lost. So if you're continuously going to that same position when you don't have to, and you're losing a second worth of time or 2 seconds worth of time, that is dollars lost in production. So just remember that as it goes around that corner with that continuous, it is all dependent on speed. So if I change that speed, we will actually not go as sharply around that corner. So if I go up to my program again, and I go from 1000 to say 250 millimeters per second and run this, you'll notice that that arc, even though I didn't change anything down here, that arc gets closer to this point right here because the robot is not going as fast. So let's run this and see what I mean. There we go. And then we get, notice how it got even closer to that point. So when you're training this in actual real life, you're training this at, even though it says 100% speed up here, it's actually 50% of that 100% speed. So you're not going full speed, which could present a problem when you're trying to train points to make sure that you're not colliding with your walls or fixtures or anything else. So when you're testing things, just remember that you have to give yourself a little bit more leeway when you're running an actual device. And that's what's nice about having software and having your cell inside that software. You can optimize the speed to be precise. So now there's 2 more cells to go through to try to optimize the speed. So again, try to figure out how to get there as quickly as possible. Make sure you set up timer 3 for this course right here and timer 4 for this course right here. So we set up 2 timers here just to show the difference between there, but let's see how fast you can get through these courses here, programming it the way that you want. Remember that this robot's speed is maximum of 2000 millimeters per second.